Good morning, Jim Howard.
Good morning.
Good morning. I am here with Jim Howard. We were just talking about your fashion illustration career on the Ruby Lane page. Now we are here on the Ruby Lane Dolls page, and we are so happy to be here to talk to you a little bit about your collecting and your career in fashion illustration and in dolls and paper dolls. We love paper dolls. So tell us a little bit about these books we see right here.
Well, I ended up in paper doll books. It's just a total accident that maybe my friend David Wolf and Jenny Toledoros convinced me to do. I think this was my first paper doll book.
Oh, this one, okay.
Yeah, they wanted me to do one sort of about my career, and that's me and drawing one of my models and the clothes that I drew for Bonwit Teller, Bullocks in Los Angeles, and Neiman Marcus. So that was kind of a mini biography of my career. But it was a total accident that I ended up doing that. I thought I was going to do that one book and that would be it. But it kind of hooked me. I got interested, so I did many paper doll books. I'm still working on paper doll books. There was a moment that I thought I should kind of rest and get a break from it, but I found out that I had to get back to it, so I'm back.
You're back.
I'm back.
And we love it. Paper dolls have always been popular. People have loved paper dolls. Back in the day, they loved them because it was actually an affordable way for a child to have a doll. They were oftentimes free in the newspaper, and children could have them. What drew you to paper dolls?
Well, the thing that is interesting, that it was a natural place for me to go after fashion illustration died as far as the public, as far as the newspapers and magazines were concerned. It was replaced by photography. So it was really natural for me to go into paper dolls because I knew how to draw clothes. I had drawn clothes for centuries, it seems, and loved every bit of it, but that being gone, it was a real nice outlet to be able to kind of still study fashion, still celebrate fashion, and it really led out of my interest in dolls also, which again was another accident. Seems like my life has been filled with accidents.
A series of fortunate accidents. So for those who are just tuning in, we are looking at Jim Howard's paper doll books, which are all available at paperstudiopress.com. And these are fabulous illustrations that Jim has done over the years during his career. And they are made now into these wonderful, wonderful paper dolls. So for those who haven't seen some of your illustrations, let's just cruise back into this room so we can see some of your illustrations. Most of these are from the 70s and 80s?
Yes.
And these are all original illustrations. What kind of mediums did you use predominantly?
Most of my work was done with charcoal pencil. Sometimes a little marker thrown in for dense blacks and things like that. But it was usually done directly on Strathmore illustration board, and a little bit of wash, India ink wash, really, basically. But I was one of the rare illustrators that my late friend, who was my agent at the time when we would go to schools and have conversations about how I drew, they would ask, how did I trace things? Did I use photography? Did all these things? And my friend would always say, well, he starts at the top and goes to the bottom.
Oh, really?
And that's about the way I did draw. I drew directly. I didn't do previous sketches. I didn't do tracings. I did work from photography once I got to the point that I was doing a lot of lighting and very detailed. It was very difficult to have a model stand that long. So I switched and I did photo shoots with my models. And then drew from the photographs.
Did you, and you mentioned earlier you didn't have any formal fashion illustration training. Did you have formal art training?
I did, but it was very late. Back in my day, there was no illustration or no drawing or art classes in schools. It was a shame. It was totally gone. And I think these days it's not that unusual for there to be no art classes in high schools, in grade schools. But I eventually went to junior college in Arlington, Texas, and that was my first art lessons that I got. Then I went to the University of Texas. I graduated from the University of Texas with a degree in art. And there I did a lot of life drawing, printmaking, painting. And my intention really was to be a painter. But I worked my way through school.
You worked your way through school and you did it.
Yeah.
If you were just tuning in, we are live with fashion illustrator Jim Howard. Jim Howard has a celebrated career from the 70s, 80s, and 90s where he worked in New York doing fashion illustration for large fashion houses, couture houses. Bonwit Teller. Would you say Bonwit Teller was sort of the zenith of your career?
It really was. It was that lighting and a whole different approach to illustration. And those pieces, if you notice, they don't really look like fashion drawings. They're really just basically realistic drawings. And that was unusual at the time. So it worked well for me for a while.
Yeah.
For a good long time.
For a long
actually.
time. So what are we seeing up here?
Somewhere along the way, I happened to be acquainted with Mel Odom, that was a doll designer. He designed a very famous Jean doll, and I happened upon it in a shop near where I lived, and I thought they were vintage dolls, but I asked who had done them, and I thought they were from the 40s to 50s, but no, my friend Mel had designed them. And so I ended up doing a few designs for his doll for the company, went to the conventions, and really gained an affection for doll collecting. So those are some pieces. I designed some of them, some friends of mine who designed some of them, and I ended up after that also collecting antique dolls.
Which is why we're here. I just perked up. We get very excited about antique dolls. This is Doll Week on Ruby Lane. So we have had several looks into some really wonderful collections this week, and we have been so looking forward to seeing yours. First, we have this fabulous, fabulous early dollhouse. When did you buy this dollhouse?
Maybe 4 or 5 years ago from Turn of the Century Antiques.
Turn of the Century Antiques is on Ruby Lane, and what a fun dollhouse this is.
I loved it because when it's old, it became a piece of art. It shows its years, but I furnished it. It's actually electrified also.
And it works.
Yep.
A lot of doll collectors don't think of dolls as a frilly thing on the shelf. They truly view them and see them as art.
Exactly, exactly. That little boy doll next to it is one that I made because somewhere along the way I got interested in making porcelain dolls. And I took some lessons in Albuquerque, and that's one of the dolls that I did.
So did you design the sculpt?
No, that's a commercial sculpt, and I wish I could tell you who the designer was, but very well-known designer sculpted it. But that's what happens in that world. You buy the molds and you pour the things and you paint them and inspire them. But I designed the clothes and put the doll together.
He is so sweet, and I love how you have him next to this dollhouse. Dollhouses are wonderful because you can learn about other ways that people lived in other cultures. Would you agree with that?
Exactly, exactly. Where else, other than photographs, could you get that sense of what those houses were furnishing them and decorating them. And it's something I never really thought I would be involved in, but when I saw this one,
it's very
spoke to me.
early, yeah.
It's a piece of art.
It is a piece of art. And speaking of speaking to you, I know that you only buy dolls that speak to you. Some people buy every doll they see, and some people are very, very choosy about their dolls, and I know that you are. Can you tell us, can we meet Madam X?
You sure can. You snuck that in on me. Madam X was probably the best antique doll I ever happened upon. I bought it at turn of the century antiques from Diane and Rachel.
Look at that vignette.
And she came to me.
There you are.
Yes. She came to me naked and no clothes, but I did happen to find her original wedding dress in tatters. So that got me started sewing for her. So she now has a complete wardrobe, a trunk full of clothes that I made for her. And I made this costume. I adapted it from an older costume. And I've ended up adding accessories and things for her. But somewhere along the way, I named her Madam X.
That was just going to be my next question. How did she get her name? She just feels, and I've told you this before, she feels like she has energy. She feels like a real person standing right there in her own home.
She does, and that's what attracted me to her. She's a brew, wooden-bodied brew, I guess from around the 1870s. And when I first saw her, my friend Sally at Turn of the Century Antiques brought her to me, and she said, "This is her. This is the one you need."
This is it.
And I just fell in love with her.
Yeah, she's absolutely wonderful. If you're just tuning in, we are here with Jim Howard. He is showing us his wonderful body of work and also his doll collection, which we are so excited to see. This is his smiling brew wood body, Madam X, in a vignette that he created for her. And we're also here with Walter.
Yes, best roommate I ever had.
Best roommate ever. So let's go and look at some of, and this is a self-portrait with Walter.
Yes.
Isn't that fun? Art is everywhere. Without art, I think that we would be nothing.
You're right. That's one of my paintings I did in Santa Fe.
What is one of the, do you remember one of the first pieces of art that you sold that wasn't a fashion illustration, but a piece of art like this?
I had, about the time that this painting was made, I had a complete show of typical Santa Fe art. There was paintings mainly of the Pueblos and the Indian dancers and such. And I think probably the first piece I ever sold was out of that show, and I couldn't even tell you without looking it up which one it was. But it was probably a painting similar to that.
Beautiful. Is there a certain kind of doll in the doll world that you think is either misunderstood or underappreciated?
I think in a lot of the doll world, a lot of people don't really understand the old ones. The 1870s, the 1850s, because their features are a little peculiar, they're a little different, but artistically, some of them, that particular doll, some people call it the screamers, I call it the criers.
They are so wonderful. They just don't fit the mold. And then when you think of the time period of when this doll was produced, it's just all the more amazing.
The little Oriental on the right is an Oriental brew copy that I made again from the commercial mold. I poured him, painted him, fired him.
Oh wow!
And attached him to a commercial body and made his clothes.
Beautiful work. And look at this fashion.
That's probably one of my favorites. It's probably the biggest fashion doll I have. She's a Gautier, and I made all her clothes.
You made all of her clothes. How long did this take you?
I don't know. I think it was one of the last dolls that I dressed completely like that. And I think in the midst of it, I thought, this is hard work.
Yes. Well, the thing about making doll clothes is it's basically the same as making a full-size outfit. You go
That's
through the
right.
same amount of work,
That's right.
the same amount of planning, the same amount of stitching, just on a smaller scale.
Yes, and really making and adapting patterns that didn't exist really until people in the doll world that started making clothes for these antique dolls.
You have a very wide variety in your collection.
But if you think of it, they're mainly fashionable.
They are, yes.
There's a Tonner doll back there, and of course the Jean doll here, and there's my reproduction of a very famous doll, actually, the H doll. I don't even know the company that it's supposed to be, but it's the H doll. But I made
An
her.
A-mark?
Yeah, I
An
think
A-mark
that's
maybe?
it. Yeah,
Looks like kind of an
I
A-mark
think that's it. And I think that's one of the last that I made.
that you made.
Yeah.
So if you're just tuning in, we are here with Jim Howard. He's a famous fashion illustrator, doll maker, art aficionado, and we are here talking to him about his collection in celebration of Doll Week. So it is such a treat to get inside somebody else's collection, because a lot of collectors, we have found, people have written in and told us that they kind of felt alone in their collecting. Have you ever felt like that?
Oh, never.
Never. Oh, good.
Yeah, because it seemed like when I immediately, the first thing I did when I got into collecting, I went to a UFDC convention, and I realized that, you know, there were 200 or 300 people there that were
Just like you.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, good.
And then it became, since I did designing on my own, that put me totally into it, that I could appreciate the dolls and their history, plus I could make their clothes. In back of you is my collection of, basic collection of antique dolls. Some of them I dressed, and some of them are original, or I'm not sure they're original to the dolls, but they're early costumes.
Do you have a favorite color that you like to dress dolls in, or just a favorite color in general for dolls to wear?
It's very funny. I do like the subdued colors, because those were really the prevalent colors in that time frame. So I like the dark browns, the purples, and black. Of course, everything has to have some. My I can't think of what I'm trying to say, but my feeling about garment design is very much like the Japanese design, because in Japanese design, every design is complete with a bit of black. So it's like, that seems to be the core of how I design for dolls. I like putting a bit of black. And I don't like the ruffles and fluff and flowers that the average doll collector likes.
So you're not into the whole dolly
No,
look. We're more
right.
into the wonderful fashion side. I once had a designer say to me that every room needed gold, red, and black.
Yes, yes, that's true. Yeah.
So that could kind of apply to the dolls. I see a lot of recurring black, red, and gold.
Yes.
Tell us about this interesting character.
That is made by an acquaintance of mine, Marche. Good heavens, he'll be furious I can't remember his name. But it's a piece that he made. It's probably with not paper clay, but one of those other non-fired pieces. And I bought that from him after I had done a workshop with him.
He's just wonderful. You also really like early pieces. Is this wax? She looks wax.
No, she's
Is it
paper mache. But
okay.
she's one of the oldest dolls I have. I think she's sort of 1850 is my, I think, the information that
definitely.
I have.
She looks very, very, very early.
Yeah. And those are Jean dolls that
Did you dress
I did.
these ones?
I dressed the one in black. I dressed at one of the conventions. It was Mel Odom's favorite doll. In fact, I reproduced it for him for another doll. And then that guy in the back never got finished, but that's Of course, I can't even remember his name, but designed by Mel. And that was one that was designed by David Wolf, my friend. This is one of the costumes he made for Jean.
Wow, it sounds like you've made a lot of friends through your doll collecting career and paper doll collecting career. They're two sort of separate segments.
They are. I really treasure my friends in the paper doll world and in the doll world. I can see my paper doll friends at least once a year at convention, but I don't go to the UFDC conventions anymore because I'm not actively collecting now.
Right, you're enjoying what you have.
Right, right.
Just wonderful. I'm just gonna give, oh, this is a great, she is Simon and Halbig lady.
She is, and
lady dolls are underappreciated, I think, because people just think that they're not pretty.
Right. I got dressed in something kind of strange, and I wasn't even sure what she was, but I think somebody at Theriault's identified her, and I ended up dressing her in a costume.
Look at that
costume that I made for a theatrical collection of My Fair Lady.
Oh,
so I was
just
kind of
wonderful.
adapting the feeling of Cecil Beaton's Ascot scene.
She's just wonderful. Dolls are, they're art, they're teachers, they're friends. Is there anything that you could say you've learned from a doll?
As far as, yeah, it's kind of a peculiar thing. So many friends of mine that are not in the doll world will say, well, what's her name? Do you name them? Mm-hmm. And I've only named that one, Madame X. And I don't look at them maybe as personally as some people do, but yet there's something that communicates to me about dolls. And I did a painting once that showed how the population of our world has turned into really casual gym clothes and separates and comfortable clothes. And I think I put one of my dolls, a photograph of it, into the collage, and I called it "Where Did We Go Wrong?"
Oh, I love it.
And I can even show you that painting.
Oh, I'd love to see it.
It's because I think I have often said that comfort
Ruined fashion?
ruins fashion.
Oh, look at that.
It certainly ruined style. These are all the people I caught waiting for a bus here in Denver, but then I threw in this fashion doll.
And look at her. She is just working it and working it well.
But you know, I don't expect anybody to dress like that, but it's the attitude, it's the love for presenting yourself that I think we've lost.
Right. Yeah. No, I think I had the same feeling when I went to church one time and I saw people that were just dressed for the gym.
Yes.
In church. Boudoir dolls are a blast. They represented at the time everything that was opposite of what a woman should do in society.
Exactly. And she's a smoker.
She's a smoker.
I put that outside my door for a couple of weeks, and people the other residents got a lot of fun out of it because they would come to me and they would say, "You realize she shouldn't be smoking. It's not allowed in this building." I said, "She doesn't care.
She doesn't care."
Right. She knows who she is.
I love it.
And of course, I got that from Diane at Turn of the Century Antiques.
Well, you worked there for a while, so you had first dibs on all of the really
I
fun
did.
stuff.
I say quite frequently that I worked off my collection.
Yes. I think this is so fun though, because if you were a super conservative person and maybe you didn't party and smoke and jig around like a lot of these women did, you could kind of do it through your dolls.
Sure. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
We live through our dolls, we really do.
We do.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to show you something that maybe you hadn't noticed before. Right on the top is a collection of military dolls that I bought at a Dillards auction, but they were out of a French museum.
Can we turn on the light and show
Sure.
you, Beetle?
See, I'm not sure.
Again, circling back to what we were talking about before as far as the historical aspect and learning from our dolls, these are soldiers from other countries. And what did you said you knew a little bit about them?
World War One, and apparently there was a museum, unfortunately, that was disbanded somewhere in France that these dolls were in, and Dillards happened upon them and put them in an auction. And the detailing and the workmanship in them is exquisite.
Your collection is so varied and eclectic, and I love that about it, because you really do have a little something of everything. And I also love that you have male dolls.
Yes, yes.
Male dolls are, again, sort of underappreciated. People turn them into females a lot of the time, but I just love male dolls.
There's a semi, that's one that I made. It's the semi self-portrait.
Look at that. Oh, this is fun. When did you make him?
I think maybe at least 10 or 15 years ago. And he was in a show, the Santa Fe Doll Art show, some years ago. And I had not even thought of him being a self-portrait, but in a way he sort of
turned into
is.
it.
Maybe a little tubbier than I was at the time.
If you're just tuning in, we are here with Jim Howard and Walter, and we are peeking into Jim's wonderful, whimsical collection of art, dolls, everything that he has. This is a fabulous Asian baby. It's a 243, I think.
Probably. And
Wonderful.
That's one that I made. Again, it was a commercial mold.
Oh, you know what? This tripped me up last time.
Yes.
He is just amazing. Yeah, he looks like an antique.
I don't know that doll in original, but
You were so talented.
Yeah, that's back there at the back. In back of him is my Pinocchio doll.
Did you make him?
That I got when I was a child, when the Pinocchio Walt Disney movie came out, and I've had him all these years, and I've kind of restored him and made him a new costume.
He's
Those
wonderful.
are Napoleon's generals. That was a gift to me one of my birthdays.
They are just beautiful. You have a lot of collectors tuning in right now, and it is so fun for collectors to see other collectors inside their collections. I missed this.
Oh, I'm mad
Fabulous
for Japanese
piece.
dolls. I have a small collection of Japanese dolls.
Did you ever do any Japanese-inspired fashion illustration?
Yes. One of those that you may have, it's right here.
Oh, yes.
This is my own designs, and the inspiration is Japanese and African culture.
Look at that.
So that's African.
How did you learn about the clothes and the African and Japanese culture? Did you go to these countries, or was it the clothes that you illustrated over the years?
I've been to Japan a few times, and I'm insane for that country and the design of that country. Africa I've never been to, but God bless the internet.
Right.
You can find a bit of everything. This is Japanese inspired.
Are those socks? Is that
Yes.
That's fabulous.
Would have probably been tights underneath, and of course I used the kimono style basically, but these are basically this. I'm trying to say this one is adapted from a workman's Japanese costume.
It's a workman's costume, but to me it just looks so fabulous. If I had that on, I would feel like I was dressed to the nines.
There you go.
If you're just tuning in right now, we are looking at some of the original paper dolls that fashion illustrator Jim Howard has designed over the years. We are looking at his Japanese and African
These are all both
inspired.
Japanese.
These
yeah.
are Japanese. Look at that.
This particular thing was taken, the idea from this little Japanese doll that had this tie-on kind of little breastplate. And so I designed this dress that would have been in white leather, but you could change the look of it by attaching these breastplates, so to speak.
Oh, that's fun. What a wonderful way to switch it out. So these
That's a Japanese bride, my
Wow.
vision of an American modernized Japanese doll. Not doll, person.
absolutely fabulous. If you'd like to buy any of Jim's paper doll books, they are available at, I remember it was in the front.
Yes.
You have a lot of paper doll books at paperstudiopress.com. Yes. So again, we are here with fashion illustrator Jim Howard, and we are looking at some of his amazing, amazing paper dolls that he has designed over the years. And this was your last issue.
That was the last that was done for the paper doll convention last year. Well, I shouldn't say last year, it was this year. I wasn't able to attend, but this was a souvenir.
You also had some paper dolls in the last doll news.
Yes, I was fortunate enough to, a couple of times I've done paper dolls in doll news.
For doll news.
That one, again, was one of those highly collectible dolls with a complete wardrobe that they asked me to do.
So if you guys have the last issue of Doll News, you actually have a piece of Jim Howard's work. And I believe it was the spring issue that had your spread.
You know, I should know, but don't.
It was this year.
Sometime.
Just wonderful. Laura just commented and said, absolutely beautiful work. Oh, I think it might be time for your lunch.
I meant to turn this off.
That's okay. We're going to sign off. Let me show a couple more.
Well, at least I could get
Hey, this is live.
Yes.
It's live, so anything can happen on a live feed, so we love it. Well, thank you so much, Jim, for having us. This was such a wonderful, wonderful treat. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for your visit.
All right.
Always enjoy seeing you.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Bye-bye.